Okay, so today we're going to be talking about how do you do something called synthetic division. And I think the big thing is that, there are different ways to do division in general, but long division for polynomials is the very standard traditional way to do it. And I think one of the reasons why we learned it is if it divides unevenly, you can multiply your result, your quotient with the divisor, and you will get that dividend. So you can check it with multiplication. And I think that's something that's pretty cool to be able to look at. And, so this answer, if you long divide it, the answer is actually 2x squared minus 5x and then plus 6. And so if you take that quotient and you multiply it by this divisor here, x minus 4, then you will get, let's see if we check this, you get 2x cubed minus 5x squared plus 6x. And then you take the negative 4 by each one, you get negative 8x squared, and then you get plus 20x, and then minus 24, and you're going to get 2x cubed minus 13. I can add, right? That'd be good. And then plus 26x, and then minus 24. And look at that's exactly what we have right here. Now, so let's check something a second, okay? The truth is that, if we want to factor something, a lot of times we said, okay, you do GCF, you do factor into two parentheses, and there are other kinds of factoring, but if you look, and we do factor by grouping, but look at this one right here. If we are smart, we would say, okay, well, 2x cubed minus 13x squared plus 26x minus 24. And you're like, okay, I get this. It's got 4 terms. You split it in half like a sandwich. You do the GCF of each half, and then we're going to be good. Well, watch this. If you take an x squared out of the first group, because that's a GCF, you would get 2x minus 13. And if you take a GCF of the second half, you would get to take out a, 2, okay? And you would get 13, it's supposed to be an x there, 13x minus 12. Well, these two groups don't match up. So factoring by grouping for this polynomial with 4 terms doesn't actually factor it. And so division is a helpful way to say, hey, if you want to divide things, or if you want to factor things, division will actually work. Well, this is kind of a stinky way to do it. Well, you're right. It is a stinky way to do it. And the deal is that with certain division problems, you can use this thing called synthetic division, okay? And it's pretty incredible. You can't do it on all of them, okay? The truth is you can only do it, and I'll tell you the scoop now, okay? You can only do it nicely. Okay, you can only do it nicely if the divisor is in the form x plus a number or x minus a number. So it would be good on this one. You could do synthetic division. I'll teach you how to do it, but it would not work on this one. Why? Because it's not just an x plus a number or x minus a number. Okay, and so I'm like, so we have to teach you long division because it works on all division. Kind of like the quadratic formula works on all quadratics. But there are other ways to do the easier questions. And so we will be focusing on, especially when you get into factoring, saying, we want to do synthetic division to help us factor things. And so it's pretty cute. And we'll use this quite a bit. Okay. We won't use long division that much. We have to learn it, but we're going to mostly focus on doing synthetic. So most of the things that we're going to use to factor are going to be using synthetic division. So, okay, our first question is kind of grubby. So we're going to start with a second question. And before we do this, let's talk about this a second. Okay, when we factor things, okay, and again, division is kind of moving us towards factoring. When we factor things, the reason why we factor them normally is so that we can find the zeros or solve them by using the zero product property. And so the thing is, if you had a polynomial and you broke it up into factors, if you have the factor x minus 3, okay, your answer for x would be x is equal to 3, correct? Okay, and so if you had x minus 5, your answer would be x equals 5, using that zero product property. So that's going to be a secret for doing synthetic division is look at it. You can only use synthetic if your divisor is going to be in the form x plus a number, x minus a number. And how you do it is you say, okay, find the zero. You set the factor equal to 0, the divisor equal to 0, to say, okay, well, that means, okay, synonyms, okay, if the factor is x plus 3, The value for x, the 0 for x is equal to -3. And I'm not sure why I'm using a highlighter. Okay, so you take that value and you put that in the box. Okay, again, synthetic division is kind of a shortcut coefficient way to deal with division, and it only works if you're dividing by x plus a number or x minus a number. Now, you still have to watch out for those phantom terms, okay? If you have a term missing, you're going to have troubles. You're going to miss a step on your stairs. So notice it goes from squared to x to number. And so you can do is 6. You write the coefficients. So -5 and -6. Okay, remember yesterday we were talking about like if you had like 5x to the third plus, 4x squared plus 4, you would have to insert a 0 here for the x term. Okay, so you have to not miss a term. Okay, it's kind of like if you have $1 million and you skip a 0, it doesn't mean the same thing. Okay, so with division, you need all the placeholders held. So there aren't any missing terms here. And so how you do synthetic division is you put the value for x in the box, you write down the coefficients of your divisor or your dividend, and you skip a line, and then you draw a line right here. So you skip a little bit of a space, kind of double space here. You bring down the first term, just do nothing to it. Okay, so just bring it on down. And then you find the product of this number by this number here, and you put it right here. Okay, and so you multiply this by this, and you put it here. And then you just use your adding and subtracting rules. You don't distribute a negative. You just use your adding and subtracting rules, and you get -23. And then you take -3 times -23, and you get 63. Okay, or 69. Sorry, I was looking at the answer. The answer is 63 here if you put those together. Okay, so that answer is going to be a remainder. Okay, this part over here is your quotient. You just have to re-put the letters back in. And so if this is your remainder, this is your constant. This is your x term. If there was one in front of it, it would be the x squared term. And then if there's one in front of that, it would be an x to the third. And so your answer is 6x minus 23. And then you do plus, and you put the remainder over the divisor, x plus 3. So if you did this with long division, you would get the exact same answer. Okay, so synthetic division is going to be a lot easier, to be honest with you. But it only works if you're dividing by x minus a number, x plus a number. Okay, so let's look over here at the first question. If you set, it's in the form x plus a number, x minus a number. So you look at this divisor and you're like, okay, x minus 3 means that x equals 1/3. So let's put that here. You put down the coefficients. There's no term missing. It goes from squared to x to the first to the constant. So you just put down 3, 8, and 2. Okay. And then we bring down the very first term. You take 1/3 times 3, you get a 1. You put 8 and 1 together, you get 9. You multiply 1/3 times 9, and you get 3. You put these together. I forgot that this is a minus sign. Try to bring down the right thing. That's honestly one of the biggest things that people are forgetting phantom terms or forgetting to bring down the exact right question. So this is 1. So there's a remainder, okay, because there's a value here. If it was 0, that means it goes in evenly. And then you put the letters back in. The first term after the remainder is the constant. The next term is the x. The following term would be like an x squared. So your answer is 3x plus 9 plus 1 over x minus 1/3. That's your answer. I'm going to tell you one more thing. Okay, you're like, thanks. But the thing is, you can't have fractions on fractions. Those are called complex fractions. And so you're going to take this fraction here and times all 3 terms by 3, top and bottom. You can do that because it's times it by 1. So you get 3 over 3x minus 1. And then so your answer is going to be 3x plus 9. And then this is your final answer for your remainder. So technically, you should reduce any fractions as you need to, but both of those would be true. All right. So let's have you guys try the next 2 questions. Okay, when we're in class, I'm like, okay, try these and see what you got. See if you can divide these without too much trouble. And so, okay, can you use synthetic or do you have to use long division? Nope, you can use synthetic, and the number that goes in the box is -2 because that's like the 0 of the polynomial. And so you're going to write down these coefficients. Notice it's missing an x squared term. Okay, so you have to put a 0 for the x squared term. Okay, so otherwise you're going to miss the steps. You got 3, you got -1, you've got a 0 for x squared, you got a 5 for the x, and a -1 for the constant. And you bring down the first term as a 3. You multiply those together to get a -6. You do the math to get -7. You get a 14. You bring it 0 and 14 make 14. 2 times 14 is 28. That makes negative 23 when you do the math. 2 times 23 is 46 and 45. So that means it has a remainder of 45. And when you go to put the letters back in, this is the constant, this is the x, this is the x squared, this would be the x cubed term. So you have to rewrite it. So 3x cubed minus 7x squared minus 14 of the x minus 23 plus 45 over, looks like x plus 2. If you did long division, you should get the same answer. It's just a lot faster and uses a lot less paper if you use synthetic, if you can. Okay, try this one. 6 goes in the box. The coefficients is not missing any steps. You get a 1, a negative 3, and a negative 18. Bring down the 1, multiply this together. You do the math, you get 18, and notice this goes in evenly. So that means that this answer is x plus 3. Okay, I don't know why I put it in parentheses, but if you multiply x plus 3 times x minus 6, you're going to get this exact answer because it goes in evenly. You know, if you FOIL it out, you can tell, hey, guess what? X minus 6 times x plus 3 actually is that polynomial there. So it really wouldn't be something that you would use or synthetic or long division on, but it's true. It's just to kind of show you what's going on. Okay, geometry. Okay, we're never going to really leave geometry completely, but to find the volume of a rectangular prism, you know, you do length times width times height. And so if the volume is equal to that trinomial here, the question is, if we know the height is x plus 2, what would be the base, the length and the width of the base? Okay, and so let's talk about that. How would you figure it out? And so if you do length times width times height, you're going to get this answer. So if we divide it by one of those, okay, again, how do you unmultiply? Well, you divide. And so if you divide this by x plus 2, yes, you can do synthetic division. And you do need a phantom term for the constant. If we do this, we get, bring down the 1, negative 2, negative 3, 6, 0, 0, 0. Okay, well then we're going to have to put the letters back in. You would get x squared minus 3x, okay? And so that's going to be the area of the base. So if you multiply this times the x plus 2, you're going to get that original volume, okay? And if you want to break it up into 3 different factors who multiply to make that volume, you could factor this first part to say, okay, it's x and then x minus 3. So I guess the length, the width, and the height would be x, x minus 3, and x plus 2. And so, again, division helps us factor things that are harder, okay? And so there honestly could be other ways to factor. Obviously, you do know how to factor, and so we're just kind of showing it, bringing it together. The question for the next one is, what's the easiest way to divide these two things? Could you use synthetic? No, because it's not x plus a number, x minus a number. Could you do long division? Yeah. But if you're dividing by a monomial, you can just reduce this. Okay, so if we actually put each of those over the 3x, we can reduce each one, and you will get 3x to the 4th minus 5/3 x, and then plus 1. Okay, so putting each term over 3x and then just reducing each term would be the best way to go on that one. Okay, so the next one I would say is, it says use long division. You're like, I don't want to do that. Well, if you look at it, and if you do it with long division, or if you do it with synthetic, you can check it because it can be done either way. And so make sure that you, okay, if it says do it the one way, follow the directions. Okay, so you get 8x cubed plus 6x squared plus 0x and then plus 7. Placeholders are important. And so how many times does this go in here? It would be 8x squared, and you get 8x cubed plus 16x squared, distribute a negative 1, and you get negative 10x squared plus 0. If you multiply this by negative 10x, you are going to get negative 10x squared minus 20x, distribute a negative 1, 20x, and then bring down the 7. And you have to multiply this by negative 20, and that makes, oh, actually positive 20. I'm being silly. You have to match it, okay? So don't go for opposite. So 20x, and then plus 40, distribute a negative, and you're going to get negative 33, so plus a negative 33 over x plus 2. And so that's the answer when you do long division, okay? Watch this. If we check this with synthetic, okay, put a -2 in the box, and that's where kids fall right in the ditch. You need an 8, a 6, a 0, and a 7. Okay, don't forget the the value for the phantom terms either. And notice you get the exact same answer if you do synthetic or if you do it the regular way. And so you just have to put the values back in. I mean, so I think the big thing is, can you practice these? And remember, if you've got it divided by x plus a number, x minus number, that's when you can do synthetic division. That's the part down here. When you do long division, on all division, okay? It's just like you can use the quadratic formula on all quadratics, but is it always the most efficient? No. Synthetic is really, truly the way to go if you're dividing by x plus a number or x minus number. You just have got to remember two things: phantom terms, and you've got to remember to solve for x and put that value in the box. And so remember to bring down the 1, multiply. And so then you get -2, and that gives you 3. Put the x's in. So this is the remainder, the constant, the x, and the x squared. So it'd be x squared minus 2x plus 1 plus 3 over x plus 2. So you could do that one with either synthetic or long division, but I would strongly suggest synthetic if you can and if you're given the choice. All right, thank you. Have a good day.